Time now for Inside Utah Politics with Lindsay Aerts.
Well, welcome on in on News for Utah Plus. This is our free TV streaming app. So if you're finding us there, thank you for downloading the app. If you're watching us on YouTube, maybe tell your friends. Or if you have Amazon Fire, Roku, or Apple TV, go download News for... Where's the camera? For Utah Plus, and download it to your TV. I'm joined today by my political analyst, Rusty Cannon, and Adam Gardiner. Guys, happy holidays.
Happy holidays, Merry Christmas.
The plug for watching us on a visual platform instead of listening to us in a podcast is we look good today. Like we are the holiday themed out.
Yes.
We did not plan this.
Adam rusty red sandwich.
Yeah, I didn't get the memo on the red, but
No,
at least I
but
have a
your
red tie.
tie-
You told me about red
Well,
either.
you know,
I'm over
you're
here
adding-
looking like a ghost.
No, you're adding our pop of
Our
winter
contrast.
white.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then Rusty's got the
If-
red tie, and Adam with the bold suit choice.
We can
Santa
pretend
tie
we
as
have a
well.
white Christmas on this show.
Yes, we have to have some sort
I'm
of
just
white
impressed when
somewhere.
you use the 4, you put the right fingers up. I think if I tried, it could have gone really bad
Oh,
with the wrong fingers,
what-
but
what-
you did it just
What
fine.
fingers do you use?
Yeah,
Oh,
what
I was just
fingers-
Put it in your thumb?
I'm trying to make a joke about fingers, okay? Just roll
News
with it.
for Utah Plus. Okay, let's dive into our topic, shall we? President Donald Trump addressed the nation last night in a wide-ranging speech, largely focused on the economy and his accomplishments since taking office about a year ago. Guys, initial thoughts about the speech. Let me give you Adam's group chat text about it, okay?
These are not supposed to be live.
These are not public. These are our political host group chat. Trump dividends, right? 1.4 million soldiers getting $1,776 checks. Trump RX. Biden was the worst. Inflation doesn't exist. Economy never better. Is that summarized?
Yeah.
That was a pretty good summary.
Yeah, it's a good summary. That's what I'm saying. Okay, initial thoughts on his speech.
Well, Adam, he had that great text. Keep it going.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say this is the speech that could have been an email. There was a lot of things I like. Look, he was talking about the border. The thing with Trump is you could just say, look, the border was a mess. We all recognize that. Our team had a really rough time when we came in to secure the border. And guess what? We did it. And we didn't have to pass any new laws through Congress. We used the tools they gave us to do so. There's a lot of wins he could have just taken and kind of been on his high horse a little bit. Chose not to do that. Had to blame Democrats and Biden for a lot of this, and a lot of it, I personally believe it was a lot of it was their fault, but a lot of it was his too. There was another issue. One of the things that has kind of been trending on social media is he's going to send 1.4 million military men and women checks worth $1,776 to celebrate the 250th anniversary of our founding. But he also mentioned that nobody knew about this until 30 minutes ago, which is a great way to make policy on a federal scale.
That's right.
And the problem I had is everyone's assuming, because he said it, that it was going to be coming from tariffs. And now it doesn't look like it's going to come from tariffs at all. There was a fund in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act that was passed by congressional Republicans this year that mentioned that there was $50 billion that would subsidize military men and women, their housing. So he's actually just taking it out of that fund and giving it in the form of a check, a Trump check. So he's calling it a dividend. That's not what a dividend is. He's just he's repackaging money that was already appropriated, in my opinion, illegally, and giving it to them as a bonus, saying, I'm your greatest president, which is fine. I think our fighting men and women deserve something like that. I'm always a fan of them getting raises and getting more money, but this was done illegally. It was done without a lot of thought, and that's going to be $2.6 billion spent without congressional approval, which I have kind of an issue with.
Do you think Congress will take issue with it, Rusty?
Details, Adam, details. I mean, come on. He clearly doesn't care about the details.
Ask forgiveness.
Yeah,
That's what he does.
I think it's you always want to. Everyone will, of course, supporting the soldiers. They more than deserve that, or if not more. I got caught up on the speech on just. It's almost comical at this point for me. You could see him wanting to go off script, but clearly he was trying to stay on the timeline. And he would read the script, and then he'd have those lines that he throws in. He'd make a point, the greatest ever, 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 and then he'd go back on script, and then just those kinds of things. You could tell he was just trying to stay on script, but he so badly wants to go off script. And like Adam said, it could have been an email. Was it proper to, notice the nation, hey, I'm doing this address? I can't blame him for wanting to get the story out and try to correct the record, but I mean, enough with the 18 trillion, that number, or just those types of things that he has so hyperbolic and so overstated. I miss the days of a president, and this is a president I voted for every time he's run, and I want to succeed, but it's not always about you and being the greatest ever. It can also be about the country and in general, making things better for people, and then you moving on. It doesn't have to always just about, hey, if I'm here, it's the greatest ever, over and over and over, when we all know that's not true.
Yeah.
Let's just stick to the better talking point, more succinct talking points, I think, is the point I wanted to make as well. I can't blame him for trying. I just think as far as performance, it was not his best.
I want to take a look at one of those moments where he does mention, I think, that $18 trillion or jobs that he's created here locally. Producer Peter, if you want to hit that for us, this is one of the moments last night that sort of summarizes President Trump's speech.
100% of all jobs created since I took office have been in the private sector. Think of that. 100% of all jobs have been in the private sector rather than government, which is the only way to make a country powerful and great. This historic trend will continue. Already, I've secured a record-breaking $18 trillion of investment into the United States, which means jobs, wage increases, growth, factory openings, and far greater national security. Much of this success has been accomplished by tariffs. My favorite word, tariffs.
So is he accurate there? 18
Accuracy.
trillion?
Why would that be important? I mean,
I don't know. Just addressing the nation. Just thought you might want to tell the truth.
No, and in fact, he loves that $18 trillion number. That's not an accurate number.
No.
We have not seen jobs reports. We did this month, but we didn't the last 2 months. They've withheld those, which means they're not good. So I think we've seen 160,000 manufacturing jobs disappear. We're not seeing $18 trillion worth of investment in the country. He also used the $18 trillion number a couple weeks ago when he said that's how much we've taken in from tariffs. So he's used that number multiple times. But in his defense in the Supreme Court, they've actually had to show Treasury numbers of what the tariffs have brought in, and that's $200 billion. And we've given 50-something billion of it, I don't know if I'm right on that number, to farmers to subsidize because China isn't buying their stuff anymore. So we keep throwing around these numbers. The thing is I think every American watching him, even his biggest supporter and to his biggest detractor, is like, that's not true.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of on social media, I've seen the $1,776 payments. A lot of people have said, we were promised $5,000 checks from Doge. We never saw those. Like, are you even going to see these checks? It's just one promise after another that we really haven't seen. We'll see what shakes out.
I wonder if some of this speech necessity was because of his approval ratings, right? We have some new numbers from Emerson College polling. Producer Peter, if you want to pull those up. Trump's approval rating has practically inverted over the last 12 months. So in January of this year, so almost a year ago, 49% approved versus 41% disapproved. Now that has flip-flopped now. Just today, Emerson College polling, you can see, right, that red number kind of inverting in the blue number. As of this month, 41% approve of the job that President Trump is doing, while 50% disapprove. Guys, what do you make of these numbers?
Well, the first thing he's going to do when he finds out about this is say it's rigged, or something like that. But you can't dispute the fact that his approval has gone down, commensurate with his disapproval going up. In my personal opinion is I think it really started to change. If you look at that approval number, starting to really go down in the spring, leveled through the summer, and then dipped a little bit lately. I think tariffs started it back in the spring. I thought that was the biggest misstep of his first year, continues to be, and here he goes in a speech saying it's his favorite word. I'm like, I mean, you got to drop this effort. It has not worked. It has not been helpful. All you've done is at least drive up prices more for all of us. It hasn't worked. And my personal opinion, I don't know if Adam agrees, is that was part of the problem here.
It's interesting to have two Republicans here who are not.
I want them to succeed, but we got to. If it's not working, stop.
So immigration being one of his most strongest issues, 47% of voters giving him a B or higher, and then healthcare, his weakest issue, 67% giving him a C or lower. Does that track for you guys?
Yeah, I think it does. I think on the immigration issue, I think that's what's keeping him strong. To be honest with you, I think it was seemed during the Biden administration, we saw every single day there was a new caravan, which is Trump said that's a word that he invented during the speech, which I thought was really funny.
I missed that.
The
Did he really
word
say
caravan
that?
Yeah,
didn't
he said
exist.
it's a word I invented, maybe not. So we had caravan after caravan coming in during the Biden administration. It was a huge problem.
Yeah.
There was news report of even far left folks at the border being like, they're just walking in. There is no check at all. That's pretty much ceased. That's all good. Keep that and kind of harness that. But instead, then you have Kristi Noem go on the border and she's like, we're all going to paint the wall black. And she, gets a paintbrush out and starts painting the wall black because it's going to make it super hot in the summer. I'm like, that is the biggest Trump idea I've ever heard in my life. They won't climb the wall if it's really hot. And so we spend millions and millions and millions doing this. And it's just this visual thing that the American people are not stupid. They can see like, man, you're doing this great job. And then I saw a video online of you taking a mother away from her kids. And these visuals, it's really hard for the public to root for you when they're seeing the impact day to day.
Well, and it's interesting that immigration is his strongest issue, Adam, because to your point, stopping what happened during the Biden administration is something he's touting, but at the same time, the rollout has been clunky and messy and a little bit lackadaisical. And again, you're seeing those images. So it's interesting to me that despite all that, we're still seeing that, Peter.
And if I may offer a little bit of context that kind of latches on to what we're saying here, the Emerson poll, which is funded by Nexstar, it's our in-house poll here at ABC4. It specifically polls on immigration, but something I found interesting doing some research on this last night is the AP NORC poll actually polls immigration and the border separately. And he's really strong on the border. I think it's like 59% wholeheartedly approve on his performance on the border. But then when you just ask immigration as a separate question, you see that number drop. I think it was something like 35% fully approve on the immigration front. So just kind of how those issues get blended into one and how people react when they are presented as separate.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Thanks for bringing that up, Peter. Okay. Any other thoughts on the president's speech before we move on, or did you speak your piece?
Well, just one thing I'd say, to round it off, he reminded me of, you remember Bidenomics in the last administration, how they go around and tout Bidenomics, all the while we were all feeling this really intense inflation. It was like, you can't just tell us that it's good and it becomes true. It's the same thing here. I think he does need to do a little bit better on honing his message on, you can't just tell us that things are great. People are going to have to feel it, or you're going to continue to have some bad poll numbers.
It's, you can't pee on my boots and tell me it's raining.
Right.
That's right. Well said.
Guys, I'm amazing. Do you believe it? I'm amazing. Don't you know that?
If I say it enough times.
If I say it, it's true.
Okay, I'll just finish with this. We saw something interesting where he said, for immigration, I have a Trump gold card. So a Trump platinum card. You can go online and, poor people can't stay here, but rich people can if you pay this and then stay here for 2 years. Then you have in his speech, Trump RX. We're not calling anything American USA. This is not America first. This is Trump first. Yeah. So we have TrumpRx.gov. That's a legit website. And when you go to it, it's Trump's face on the website about cheaper drugs. He is trying to take all the credit for this. Today, now the thing that's going around on social media is the board of the Kennedy Center voted to rename the Kennedy Center the Trump Kennedy Center. The Institute of Peace under the State Department is now the Trump Institute of Peace.
So
we're seeing through this stuff. This is not America first. This is Trump first.
But you guys are Republicans. What onus is on the party here to step up, or members of it at least, and say, we're done supporting kind of this version, right? This message, Adam, to your point, putting Trump first.
I don't think there's many Republicans out there who are willing to walk that plank right now. It doesn't work out well. He will hammer you until you go away. I don't see anybody pushing back. The only thing is that soon he'll be a very lame duck as far as a president goes after the midterms, and maybe at that point people are more willing to push him aside. So.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think you've seen a couple of folks in Congress pushing back on him. You saw Marjorie Taylor Greene, and she pushed back on the Epstein files, and she's out. Don Bacon from Nebraska, he's pushed back on Trump with his foreign policy. He's not running again because it's too difficult. Thomas Massie has actually become more popular in Kentucky since he started pushing back. Trump has put millions into defeating Thomas Massie, and he's become more popular. The Senate in Indiana, voting on the Trump maps, they stuck it to him. And they said, no, we're not going to put up with this, despite death threats and other things. And they've come out looking really good. And so I think we're going to start to see more of that through the midterms, especially once everyone sees the lay of the land of, hey, things aren't working out as well as we thought. But on renaming the Kennedy Center, that's in statute. Only Congress has the right to change the name, but they're not going to push back at all. On spending $2.6 billion, sending these checks to military men and women, only Congress can decide where the money goes. They hold the power of the purse. In the state, if the governor tried to do that and say, hey, I'm going to spend $400 million on my own project without the legislature say so, they would freak out. It doesn't matter if they're the same party.
Yeah.
We should be doing that too. If good government is good all the time, it should be good during this administration.
Interesting. All right, we'll have to move on for now. I want to talk about another thing, though, that impacts the Trump administration, and that was this Vanity Fair piece this week with Trump's chief of staff, Susie Wiles, and the rest of the members of Trump's inner circle. Supposedly, she did like 11 different interviews with this Vanity Fair reporter over the course of, 8 or 9 months, however. And there were some scathing revelations about, her sort of admitting some of Trump's faux pas right in this article. But then she comes out and she's like, this was a hit piece. Was it a hit piece? I mean, can you have a hit piece when you sit with a reporter 11 times? I don't know.
I'd love to hear Adam's thoughts on this. I read it with fascination just because I'm a political nerd, and it's a great article for those that want to read it, of just kind of the inside look that everybody craves, especially in an administration like this. I just don't know why they did it with Vanity Fair and why they expected it to come out positively. That's what I don't get it. It's almost like I'm missing something.
So I think the reason why she said yes is because the interviewer was Chris Whipple. Chris Whipple is not a dummy. He's not a fly-by-night leftist reporter. He literally wrote the book on presidential chiefs of staff all the way from Nixon to now. So he has his bona fides in this area. He knows every chief of staff, has interviewed all of them extensively, and I think is very fair. There's a book that he wrote called Gatekeepers about chiefs of staff. It's very good. So when I saw that he wrote the article, I was really excited. And then in one of the revelations, I guess we're calling it, this is kind of stuff we already knew.
Yeah,
but it's funny to hear her say it because she's so behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And she's had a falling out with Ron DeSantis in the past. Nobody really knows why. Ron DeSantis won't talk about it. Hires on with Trump, but she really didn't like Elon Musk, and so she called him an avowed ketamine user who was kind of smelly and slept in a sleeping bag in the OEOB, old executive office building. And then when the New York Times called her to do a follow-up on this paper, she said, I never said that. And then Chris Whipple played the recording
there are
of her
receipts.
actually saying it.
There are receipts.
So it's like we see this all the time. Like the right has been saying this. Don't sit with the left-wing media. They're not going to be your friend. She does. She feels burned because she told the truth. And it's not like this was a surprise. She sat for 11 different interviews. Like she talked a lot. So she didn't have to do that. It makes me think there's something much more going on here, to Rusty's point, because one, she's not about the spotlight. So for her to do this is really kind of weird. Also the background of the photographer doing, like, Marco Rubio stood for pictures of this.
Yeah, I couldn't believe
the vice president did.
They were
Stephen
all
Miller
willing
did.
participants.
They were all willing participants. They didn't get burned. This is just what happens when you tell the truth. Also, why would you pick that as the place where you want to pick? There's a thermostat.
Yeah, go stand up by the thermostat
get out
on
of
the
I
wall.
saw someone breaking down the photos that, like,
And it makes you look short.
the visual clutter, though, was part of the masterpiece.
It was, why would you pick these? And from the photographer's perspective, they chose where to stand. Like, this is what Stephen Miller kept asking, do I smile or do I look tough? Like, and they said, well, what do you want to convey? And he's like, well, I want to kind of convey both of those things. And so he goes, I kind of want to show that I'm like a nice guy. And the reporter's like, well, you could be a nice guy. That would actually probably help. That does not convey a
that's
nice
not,
guy.
That looks like a World War II
Right?
like person who's
That's
now
Mussolini.
in prison. Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's what it looks like.
And the title is The Zealot, so that doesn't help your
Why
case.
this would be so fascinating, though, is she's done something good, meaning she has some secret sauce. She turned around with Trump, I think made one of the greatest political comebacks, at least in my lifetime. And she was behind a lot of it. And so I'm really curious to hear more from her. She's plain spoken, which I think is what everyone appreciates about her. So that maybe was going to come out in this article. I think it did, but it can backfire if it's phrased wrong, as we're seeing. But I am fascinated to hear more about how she's done what she's done. But this does seem to be backfiring a little bit just because of the way it's been, framed.
Well, and she called Trump, said he had an alcoholic's personality. And so that was the headline, right?
Yeah.
Every outlet led with he has an alcoholic's personality. We all know that Donald Trump doesn't drink. He's not an alcoholic. He lost a brother to alcoholism.
Yeah.
So he doesn't drink. But what her point was, as she explains in the article, which I thought was pretty true, she's like, my dad was an alcoholic. When he was drunk, he was mean and he felt like he could do anything. He had nothing that could stop
no
him.
rules. Yeah.
And that is Trump. We all agree that's kind of Trump. He doesn't think anything can stop him, should stop him. So he just keeps going. That's
For what it's worth, the
personality.
president agreed. He gave
like,
a bit of sound to the media the other day where he's like, I mean, what she's saying is that I'm very driven. I'm very obsessive. I feel like I can tackle problems. And I don't disagree with her assessment. And we love Susie Wiles. Like the president doesn't come out of this interview thinking any less of her, which I think speaks to that role she's playing behind the scenes.
Yeah, so that's why it's interesting for her to call it a hit piece when she's getting support from her side and the president too. Okay, we just have a couple minutes left, so I want to hit a local topic really fast. We talked about this on Tuesday, the possible expansion of the Utah Supreme Court here in the state of Utah. So go watch the episode from Tuesday if you want more analysis on it, because we're just going to touch on it briefly. But guys, this comes at a time when the Utah State Legislature and the judiciary are not besties. They are not getting along so well. Legislature doesn't love that they've been checked on redistricting and other significant measures. Are we court packing here, or is it time to expand our Utah Supreme Court? Is there a case for it?
I would be a hypocrite if I didn't say yes, it's court packing. but I think they have some valid reasons to add some more members, bigger population, more caseload work. The Supreme Court in Utah does put out a very meager amount of work. And I'm not a legal expert. Maybe that's totally off base, but I've heard it from some attorneys that they could be doing more. Maybe this is an effort to just make it. Apparently, we are in the minority with 5, like many, many other states. I think 28 states have 7 justices. This wouldn't be out of the norm. But it's hard to not think that, okay, well, we want some ideological shift. If we get a point the judges, in there, it mirrors what went on nationally in that same debate.
And Adam, lawmakers told the Deseret News this week that they needed to kind of get ahead of the messaging on this. What does that say to you?
Yeah, that's one of the things that I've seen that was made it pretty clear was Senator Weiler. He brought up that he's been talking about this since 2022. It's been a big issue for him. It has nothing to do with the rulings. I think they need to keep saying that. This is not a new thing. We've been talking about this. Here's all the data and research we've been doing for years that lead us up to this decision. But if you say, I don't like Judge Gibson, so we're going to change the Supreme Court, that looks bad. Yes, the Senate and the House do need to get together with the messaging.
Yeah, there's a little bit of perception is reality when it comes to politics, right? And as politicians, they have to fight that often. So, all right, you guys, thanks for your insights today. We appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
And happy holidays.
Merry
Happy
Christmas.
holidays. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, I'm so glad you guys are on my team. I'm
Thank
grateful for you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Producer Peter, appreciate you.
Thank you, everybody.
And
And just a quick note for viewers. We touched on a lot of things like how many states have larger Supreme Courts, that investment figure the president's listing. I'm going to include links to sources on all these, as well as these polls we discussed in the description of the podcast episode and YouTube video. You want to do a little research, go check those out.
And that
Good
is
point.
why Peter
Yes.
makes me look good. We appreciate it. Invite you to watch Inside Utah Politics on ABC4 this week, Sunday at 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. We will have the Utah State Bar coming to discuss this very thing and the expansion, possible expansion of the Utah Supreme Court. We also have the latest Democratic candidate in CD1, Eva Lopez Chavez. So we'll get her take on why she's running in that district and all the things that come with it. So invite you to watch there, and happy holidays, everyone. If we don't see you before Christmas, we will be back after the holidays. So pick it back up where you left off. We'll see you then.